Hey, and welcome to another episode. So, today we will talk about the right wing election laws in France, which was huge and it was great because they didn't like it. Second one is weed. Let's talk about weed in Europe. You know why? Because we deserve it. We deserve some fun. So, let's get into that, shall we? Okay, so guys, we wanted to do our reaction to the French election news together with Snor, and right now this week he is here. So welcome, Snor.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. It's wonderful to be back.
Yep.
Yeah, so the national rally did lose, so now we can breathe again. Like, let's
Yeah.
talk briefly about how satisfying it was to watch those right wingers smile wipe off their faces once they saw the results, which they were not prepared for.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
to me, as an outsider, I was worried, right? But I wasn't too worried because I know how the French elections usually go. And I think Anastheus can confirm this probably. It's always in the second round where the the center and the center right and the center left band together to make sure that the far left and the far right don't really get in, right? So I wasn't
You're
too worried.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
You're totally on the spot.
hmm. I mean, to me, it was a lot of people were very, were like, oh my gosh, Le Pen is going to win, But I thought, no, probably not because of this. But it was still was very satisfying to see it actually happen, And it's always been a bit of a thing because I mean, really, you know, I think it was less than a month that he gave everyone to campaign and things like that, right?
Yeah, it was a snap election, so it was really on the short term.
Yeah, like people
Exactly.
didn't have enough time to prepare, and I think basically Le Pen counted on that to carry her, but
Hmm.
not really how that played out.
Yeah, not at all. Basically, I believe it was like the most unlikely scenario that happened, as in the left got their shit together. They
Yeah.
basically made a plan. They presented a united front, and
I
yeah,
wouldn't necessarily say they have their shit together, but yeah,
yeah.
I
In
mean,
the
let's be
context, it
honest, right?
was.
Yeah. Let's be honest, right? They managed to cobble something together in such a short time, which is great. But if you looked at how the center right basically collapsed, they had that whole, where the president of the center right party was, holed up in his office and trying to fight off, lawsuits and things like that, right?
Yeah,
There was no way that they were going to be part of the solution. There was just too much infighting. Whereas the left, funnily enough, managed to cobble together something. And I think when you look at, for example,
and now they can, go back to irrelevancy by
yeah.
essentially not trying to ally with anybody that actually has power, which is,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm very grateful for that, but how much do I pay for it?
yeah. I
There
mean,
must be some
I
hidden
mean,
cost to that, right? It
the
cannot be
uh,
so good.
if I had to say basically about the hidden cost and stuff, I talked a bit about this with you last week. So yeah, basically to also make a link with what Snor said about the second round, generally how it goes. So there was a coalition between the center and the left wing, indeed, but what might be a bit of a predicament in the future is the fact that this election has been widely seen by the populace as a win for the left.
yeah.
So if there isn't some, at least in some capacity, a meaningful change for the better, they might be held accountable for what happens, regardless of how true it is.
Yeah, and I
Mm,
think they're fumbling the opportunity as hard as they can with their approach right now, Like,
Yeah,
they aren't trying to ally or rally, with a common idea that
Mm,
center could also share. Like they have the opportunity to improve the situation, but I just
mm.
don't see any proposals. I just see them fighting over, whatever there is still to fight over.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is the fundamental problem with an alliance with multiple parties when you have to select one president, basically. I mean,
Yeah, it's a
um,
coalition.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And when you have people like Mélenchon, who is, always been far left and always been kind of authoritarian in his way of running his party, trying to get him to cooperate with, the other center left parties, it's getting hard, and the Greens, of course, as well. Um, there's still no real, they still haven't decided on who's going to be prime minister, right?
No, they haven't decided about that.
Mm.
I believe that Macron at earlier refused the resignation of his current prime minister, which was a
Okay.
member of his party, because he
Yeah.
didn't want to elect a minister from the coalition, I believe.
Yeah, 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 exactly. I mean, he will have to eventually, won't he?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
Because
mean he will be
yeah,
forced to. It cannot go over indefinitely. I just
mm,
think it's really sad to see so much infighting, even though we did conquer a large enemy that could be
yeah,
very dangerous. So now I really would like for them to show voters why it's great they did pick right. I mean,
yeah.
they
yeah,
did pick them. They picked the right option. They
uh,
choose what needed to be chosen. Because right now, I just don't see the benefit to the voters at all,
mm.
and that's
I
what's
mean,
worrying me.
they've got 4 years to show what the benefit to the voter is, isn't it? So they've still got a little bit of time, but it's all about perception. Can they be a strong government to challenge Macron as a president, really,
I'd
right?
say
That,
it's less than 4 years because the presidentials are in 2026, I believe,
mhm,
2026 less.
yeah.
So if it might have, no, it not might have, yeah, I think it will have an impact on the presidentials for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And this will
so yeah,
also be the last time Macron. Macron can't run again, can he?
no, he can't get three mandates in a row. No, he can't.
Yeah. So it's gonna be extra exciting. I mean, the current Prime Minister is Prime Minister Attal, right?
Yeah.
How's he viewed by the general public? Is he seen as a trustworthy person, or um,
I didn't look too much into his public perception yet. I know that one of the optimal move, however, for Macron would have been to accept his resignation, I believe, to allow him to make a separate agenda from Macron's party
yeah,
to
yeah,
allow
exactly.
him. Yeah,
But I mean, on the other hand, Bardella, the runner for the Front
national
National,
rally. Yeah.
National Rally, yeah, they changed their name. So I mean, I'm old, so for me,
Oh
it's
no, no, it's
you
recent.
know,
It is recent. I don't blame you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. For me, they'll always be Front National, right? But he basically, after his surprise, quote unquote, loss, is now gone to the European Parliament.
Yeah,
Um, and if if Macron had accepted the resignation of Attal, I think that might have also been a good move for Attal to go into the European Parliament, because that's basically a place where you can profile yourself, but it's not somewhere where you can suffer a lot of damage. Let's say, it's
Yeah,
a
you
it's
can
a
pivot.
very safe place. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a very safe
yeah,
kind of environment to showcase yourself.
yeah. The
Whereas
That's
general
why
now,
public
right
doesn't care
wingers
too
are
much.
doing what they're doing because, most
mm,
of their antics that don't register well will just blow over in like regional Brussels news.
yeah,
And people back home won't hear about this, most likely.
Yeah, they're not
But
too interested in European politics in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So if they don't do as well, it just people won't hear about this. And
Mm,
when do a spectacular thing for like their public perception or their career or something or their image, then
mm.
people will hear about this. So this is a very safe place where you have this distance, and your local press will want to write about your country positively.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So you have
exactly,
this
exactly.
inherent bias.
Mm. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I mean, that was a very good move by the lad to do that. You know, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this kind of develops over the next few weeks. You know, if the left can actually choose someone that is acceptable to Macron to work with. You know, and if I mean, if they can basically let go of the ego of having won. Because that's always the danger, when you have like four parties who all
yeah.
kind of contributed to the win. Who's going to take the lead? Is it going to be Mélenchon? Is it going to be one of the other parties that's going to take it? It's going to be really
Um,
interesting to see that.
what I can tell you is that in French politics, there is a real disconnect between Mélenchon's party, LFI, and the rest of the left parties. Because even within the left, I believe you know Snor, Mélenchon's party is a really, really far left party. Like
Yeah.
he himself is like you said, is a pretty authoritarian, and
Mm.
one of his big thing is that he doesn't really like to compromise and stuff because he's an
Yeah.
extreme. If you had heard his post-election speech, uh, basically the man was really confident, like he was making demands and stuff. Like,
Mm.
Okay, I just think there is a great story about this Polish left wing party called Together. They were very progressive, I would say even far left. And the name Together would imply they want to
yeah,
work together for a better future. Man,
Mm.
you could work with any other party other than
yeah,
them. They didn't want to do anything together with anybody. They wanted to do their separate shit all the time. So I don't know what the name was. And the funny thing was that we were actually organizing something with them. Like, we were planning on something, we had this
Mm.
mostly center, but still progressive, group. So we
Mm.
wanted to at least do like some talks with them, discussions or
Yeah.
something. And they just like were okay. So this is under the Together banner. So only our word mark will be there, our branding. And we were like, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
be done together with you guys. Oh no, we
And
don't want that.
And that was
What?
on. Was that basically during the Tusk? Because the Tusk
No, no,
basically
no.
banded
PIS,
together
Law and
people on
Justice.
this.
So this was
Oh yeah.
when the Task government was basically like exiting. So this was already Eva Kopacz, a replacement that he did choose as a prime minister of Poland. And
Yeah.
there were elections that PIS was going to score a lot
Mm.
in. So there were like this left wing challenger. A lot of young people did vote for them, but
Yeah.
you know once it did got on the ground, because they did actually get a pretty good result that did end up giving them a subvention for their work, etc.,
Mm.
for the future of their party. So this was like very important. This was their make or break moment. And
Yeah.
afterwards we were like, okay, so let's carry them, let's also help them out, we also are
Mm.
progressive, let's help each other out. And
Yeah.
they just didn't want to do anything together with anybody. They just wanted to do their own thing. So with nobody else. In the end, this did end up losing a lot of steam because of it.
Mm.
And now they are allied with the left, but like de facto allied. And now the situation is also comparable to what I hear from Anastheus about the Malaysian situation. Because right
Yeah.
now, they are also, technically they're allied, but they want to still do their own thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's something that is a trap that many parties do fall into. I mean, we had the same thing here in the Netherlands. We have two parties working together, which are the Greens and the center left, the Labour Party. They basically did a ticket together, right? But for example, in the European Parliament, they don't work together at all,
Yep.
right? So you get that disconnect between what the voters want and what the parties are actually prepared to countenance, to do to stay in power and stuff like that.
I
And I
would
think
also I would also say that alliances are always at the beginning are painted as way more rosy than they actually are.
true, very much so. I think and I think when it comes to like the French election, I mean, there were four leftist parties, I think, right, Anastheus, who basically banded together on
Um,
this, right?
I don't remember the exact number, but there were at least five
Yeah, yeah.
in total in the coalition. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
so I mean that there's a lot of political ego going on, is what I'm trying to say.
a
That's
lot.
and before you can really move forward, you have to
Man,
basically
and that ego kills so many projects.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's what France is having right now. That battle between all those egos, and once that's sorted out, they can actually choose someone.
Yeah,
So
the
it'll be really interesting to see who it will actually be in
You
the
know,
end,
when it comes to
because it
like
won't be another shot.
Polish far right,
Mhm.
there was this guy called Janusz Korwin Mikke, which I'm pretty sure you heard about him.
Yeah.
He's sleeping at the European Parliament, also saluting, doing the Hitler salute. Uh,
Mm.
so yeah, he's a known person. So
Yeah.
the blessing was that the far right always concentrated around him, and that
Mm.
guy is always such a clown that he
Yeah.
makes such an unlikable person of himself that
Mm.
people are always joking that whenever the election gets closed, he enables the protocol 1% in his brain to
Yeah. Yeah.
aim to get to 1% of the voting population to vote for him. Like, it's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
the 1%. This is what he targets. He's elite
Yeah.
like that. And
But in the end, I mean that's kind of like what Le Pen has as well in France, right? She is not liked, right? And neither is her dad, right? There's just there's just a segment of the population which just cannot deal with her, right?
man,
Whereas, for
so
example, what?
this guy is so unlike that he gets kicked out of his parties constantly. For secret babies, for sleeping with assistants, everything you can name under the sun. They will just never almost report this. They will always just kick him out for like disciplinary reason or whatever. Man, he has so many kids. Like, literally, his newest kid is like 2 years old. The guy is like 80 something.
Jesus Christ,
So you have this guy. He gets kicked out of his party, then he starts a new party.
yeah.
And
He-
every time he disagrees with somebody, he starts a new party. It's crazy. Man, he started over 10 parties, if I remember correctly.
Jeez, yeah.
He
But
even named
isn't that
one party Korwin, which is literally his surname, but transliterated to Koalicja Odrodzenia Rzeczpospolitej Wolność i Nadzieja.
okay? Yeah.
And
Come on,
they
man.
kicked him out of that one too.
So he basically got kicked out of a party which he named after himself. Oh, that's
Yeah.
embarrassing, man.
Yeah,
But if you look at
and basically then he created Confederacja, which is,
Mhm.
far right with
Yeah.
libertarians. That's a
Mhm.
hellish coalition if you've ever seen one.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was that he always starts his party like, "Oh, this will be party about freedom and everything." But the issue is how
Mhm.
he interprets freedom. Like, some people did join his party because they were like staunch libertarians, and then he allied with the far right, and those people are
Yeah.
like, "What the hell, man?
Well, yeah. We don't want this.
Like, we don't want this really." And
Yeah.
he's like, "No, this is freedom for me."
Yeah. But if you look
And
at, for example,
like,
France,
try
right?
to work with this guy. It's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I think the parable for France here is that Le Pen also very unliked by a lot of the population. They'll never vote for her, right? But
yeah,
when they put forward Bardella, right, I got kind of worried at that point because as soon as you let the Le Pen name kind of drop, people will go, yeah, but maybe it's a different party. You know what I mean? Or maybe they're more
You know what can
we
help
use
us?
them more.
I'm pretty sure there is some dirt on this guy. I'm pretty sure there is a
Yeah, sure.
photo that exists somewhere, allegedly, of him, saluting, doing the Roman salute or something during a fair. Like,
Oh, okay, yeah,
there
yeah.
must be something.
I wouldn't be
Allegedly,
surprised. I
of
mean, you
course.
know, people keep in the country here, people keep saying that it is a rehearsed point over and over, but I think it's still important to state it out that the RN is a party that was found by Nazis, literally.
Mm.
It
Yeah,
Yeah,
literally
that's
from a
why you
Nazi
always
party,
will find those photos.
yeah.
That's why they always came out, because those guys are literally Nazis.
literally.
And by the way, wasn't this in France where the court actually did clear that this is something you can say about them?
Yeah, I believe it was something about the slander about something like this. I have
Yeah,
to
like
look
this
into
isn't
it.
slander because their opinions are very much close.
But I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
tell you that there was literally one errand candidate that had to basically drop out of a race in these elections because there was a photo of her resurfacing with a Nazi hat. Literally.
Oh my God, yeah, I did
Who
hear about
could
that.
have guessed?
Yeah, exactly. You know, what a surprise! It's like when the AFD says, so all of a sudden, says, yeah, the SS wasn't too bad. Well, excuse me, what did you
Like,
just say? Uh,
yeah, okay.
but
I mean, it's still surprising, even if it's like expected for them to say stupid shit.
yeah. But I'm interested, Anastheus. How much did foreign policy actually factor into this election? Because we saw,
Um,
for example, with the European Parliament. I mean, the European Parliament elections are always kind of weird because they're like nobody really takes them seriously. But when you have national elections, the subjects become really, really serious. And I'm just wondering, was
I
there
would
any
say,
point
like,
at
I will just say, like, for example, and why this is a very, very good question, because here in Poland, we mostly focus on international politics during the European election, for example.
yeah, but not during the national ones, right? Because
Yeah,
that's when
not
you
during
get
the national
the
ones. It's very
yeah,
hard to quantify, international relations to people.
if
yeah,
I
yeah,
had to answer Snor's question, basically, um, so I'll make a link with the European elections, like was mentioned. The result in the European election, which was quite a bit in favor of the right, was basically just a way for the population to say that they were fed up rather than
mm,
a real dedication to the cause.
yeah.
So basically, the way that foreign policy played into this election, I don't know if you'd consider immigration foreign
I
related.
would consider that, yes.
But yeah, immigration was the biggest thing,
Yeah.
like unsurprisingly. But as far as EU policies go, Ukraine, no, I don't think that was a point at all.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Because I mean, we had the same, right? We had our election in November last year, and of course, immigration was the big thing, right?
Yeah.
And this was something that the far right exploited rather well here in the Netherlands.
See,
But
international
foreign
relations here in
policy,
Poland, I lied.
yeah,
They are important because there were parties that literally, were talking how much they will help Ukraine if they get elected.
yeah, exactly.
And there
I mean,
were
that that's
parties
that's
that did
that's so
tell that
surprising,
they
isn't it?
will stop help to Ukraine if they get elected. So,
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, for Poland, it's more of an issue because you're next door to Ukraine, right? It's
yeah,
more like
yeah,
neighbor
exactly.
policy than foreign policy, I guess. But for France and for the Netherlands, because we're one or two countries away, right? It's a little
That's
bit more kind
also,
of abstract. But I'd expected to have it more kind of impact in both of our elections. That people would talk about Ukraine and would talk about Putin. But I really didn't see that. And I think, I mean, this is something that makes me think that the local elections are always a little bit myopic. They can't look further than the national interests, as it
yeah, I
were.
would say that
Yeah.
even the international aspect of national elections is mostly like this near international sphere. So for
Yeah.
Poland, Ukraine, for example,
Yeah, or
but
Germany,
not
in the
France.
case of peace, right? The PIS party always wants wants to have Germany pay reparations and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. And
but
obviously
that's your
there are
neighbor.
very hard partners when talking with Germany then. So
Yeah, yeah,
obviously, like for Germany, it was very important that PIS is no longer in power. But
yeah, yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
for the reparations part, honestly. It was mainly for every single other aspect.
Yeah. Cooperation and things like that. But because I mean, France is not next to Ukraine, right? It doesn't
No.
really play into the action. Whereas for Europe as a whole, it's really important to for there to be support for Ukraine, right? So
Yeah.
it always surprises me that foreign policy somehow never really gets the limelight that it deserves in an election, right? Especially if it's not a neighbor. So I mean, for me, that was kind of that's why I asked Anastheus the question. That's kind of what I was kind of getting at, is that um, it'll always be internal politics which kind of leads the local elections.
I mean,
Um,
it's all about relatability, you know, how you it's
mm,
all about how you sell things to the audience, to the
yeah,
people. So if you're trying to sell people about helping Ukraine, which is totally doable, by the way,
mm,
it
yeah,
has been
We
done.
should also make an argument, and I think people need to understand more, that international politics is an aspect of realization of the internal politics of that country.
mm, yeah. I mean, this is something that I've been working on for years now. Trying to get the European Union to be more of a national subject, as it were. I've been trying to do that in Dutch kind of news sphere, but also the more kind of European news sphere. And you do see that the European Union is now starting to more and more kind of feature into those discussions.
With
But
China
I mean,
especially, and that's very
yeah,
good because European Union has way more bargaining power rather than Poland.
yeah, exactly. But for example, right, during our election, there were a number of TV discussions and well, shows that were basically where the candidates come on and they present their thing. Only one was really focused on that. One of those interviews. Um, Whereas it should be a lot more. I think and it's really hard to kind of find a way to kind of make it like Anastasia said, to make it relevant to the person on the street, especially when it's not next door, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'm
because
kind of
lots of
I'm kind
people
of wondering.
don't understand international politics because
That's
there
why
is
we need
just so many
more.
levers.
Yeah.
That's why we need more stuff like international projects like Erasmus, like
Mm,
more EU sponsored projects
yeah.
to make the EU as an entity more tangible to the average person.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm terrible at French, right? But during the TV debates, did Europe ever really feature in the French debates, or the national elections, or was that basically something that wasn't that much talked about?
You mean the debates between the candidates?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember. I didn't quite watch the debate in its entirety. I just watched it because Bardella was a bit clowning himself and it was funny. And so I don't
Good
think it was,
TV.
yeah, I don't think it was a major feature,
Mm,
if I had to guess,
yeah.
because the national rally is all about, immigration this, immigration
Mm,
that. So yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I mean the European Union last year also basically finally came up with a way of dealing with asylum seekers and with migrants by allowing countries to either accept a quota or pay into a pot so that the people that do accept the quota have more money to deal with the migrants. Um, and that kind of nobody here in the Netherlands talked about that deal, right? It was all about the internal politics and stuff like that, and that really kind of saddens me because the European Union has a position, it has been agreed upon, and to change that, you would have to convince 26 other countries to see it your way, right? And that didn't, that whole discussion didn't even feature during the debates. And now everyone's going like, yeah, we want to change this, but how are we going to do it? Whereas, if it was part of that discussion, it would have been much more clear to everyone that there was, that there's no simple solution to this. I think that's just it. The far right, that's what the far right always does. They provide, they
Simple
give
solutions
simple,
to
yeah,
very complicated problems that sound
exactly,
plausible.
yeah,
It
yeah,
sounds just
exactly,
plausible enough. And now you have a situation where there's, oh yeah, this sounds like a plausible solution. I might vote for these guys. Those
yeah,
guys seem to know what they're talking about.
yeah, 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 yeah. But they don't, right?
Yeah, and
You
then
get what I'm
there's
getting at,
there's
yeah.
people like us which hear something like that and are like, no, those
No, it's
guys
not gonna
have
happen.
no clue what they're talking about.
Yeah, but I think I mean that's a little bit of disconnect. I mean, people like us who follow politics a lot, and who like news, and are a bit of new junkies. Um, for us, it's sometimes incomprehensible how people can
Speaking of
not.
junkies,
Yeah, yeah,
we have another topic coming up, and
yeah.
we're
That's
at
true.
20 minutes for
Yeah.
this segment.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah.
So let's maybe end it there, and let's pivot to our second topic.
Okay.
Our second topic, ladies and gentlemen, is let's talk about weed in Europe. There's lots of talk about weed in California, weed in Washington, D.C., weed in the US in general, or Canada, or other. But in the EU, we have weed, and trust me, it's pretty strong. It's good. So let's talk about that because Snor is Dutch. He's from Netherlands, so he
Yes.
can buy weed off the streets recreationally easy. I represent a second type of country. Here, weed is allowed for medical purposes, but not for recreational ones. You have to get this by prescription from your doctor. I'm getting 30 grams a month, so there's that. And I'm using it for pain because I did break my leg. And there's other pain because I'm just sitting all the time because I'm a software developer.
Yeah.
So I'm using it for that. So, Anastheus, in your country, weed is
Yep.
not legal at all. Is that correct?
It is not. It is not at all. It is still in the stage at which it is seen quite negatively.
Do we have any countries where weed is allowed recreationally but not medically? I don't think so.
I don't think so
Scan-
either.
Scandinavian countries, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Germany
Decriminalized,
was.
but not legal. You can't
Yeah,
really
to
buy
assist
it on
them.
the street.
Yeah.
You still have
Yeah.
to buy it from the. I'm not counting that. I'm not
I mean,
counting that. Obviously, you can buy weed from a dealer pretty much anywhere in the EU.
mm, I think I mean, part of this discussion is, of course, how the decriminalization works. I mean, in Poland, as far as I understand it, you only have the
Criminalized.
medical cannabis. Yeah, yeah, you only have medical cannabis. So if you're caught with, a baggie on the street, by the police, they will
48
make you a
hours.
fine.
You
Yeah.
slip it off in a jail cell. They will search your home to
Yeah,
find
yeah,
anything else, and there's nothing really you can do about this because the policemen or interventions always have cameras, so it's not like the old times where they could just let you into your home and tell you, okay, throw everything away because I don't want to see anything.
yeah. But I mean, in France, for example, right? When you are caught with with a user amount, what happens then, Anastheus?
With illegal weed, you mean?
Yeah, there is no legal there, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
for absolutely. I never got caught because I don't use weed for my part. Um, but I think that it's a fine. It's a
Okay. Yeah.
fine. I mean, it depends on the amount that you have on you,
do you
of
have like a
course.
sanction, like for example they forbid you from operating motor vehicles, from getting a
Um,
license?
I think it would depend on if you were caught, like obviously under drugs, we're using substances while driving.
Okay, so just regular losing license while intoxicated laws. I'm saying that
Yeah.
because in Germany, for example, they used to do that they will catch you with weed, you will pay a fine, but they will always also revoke your driver's license, or almost
Wow.
always. So they had
Yeah.
this thing. I'm not sure how it is there right now. I need to ask around.
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah,
this kind of leads into kind of because it's illegal, people think it's exciting to use, right? And I mean,
And
if you
because
look
it's
at the
illegal, also
uses,
people think it's dangerous when in fact
yeah,
it's not. It's
oh,
the most
yeah.
yeah,
boring
yeah,
truck ever.
but it's
So
but to me it's more like
in France,
so
it's about 2 years of prison and
mm,
about
wow,
4,000, 4,500 euros of fine.
wow, yeah, yeah. I
That's
mean here,
crazy high for we progressive
yeah,
country.
If you are on the driving, if you're driving,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I mean
if
I
you're
got yeah,
driving,
yeah.
but
yeah.
if they just catch this in your possession while you're driving, or you must be intoxicated.
If you drive after having been intoxicated,
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah,
fine. That's fine. I have no issues with that. Fuck people who drive under influence.
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so yeah, I have
Definitely.
no beef with that. But like, if you just have weed on you, or if you smoke at home and police find it, what's the fine for that?
I'd have to look. I'd
Mm.
have to look.
I
For
mean,
example, for oh yeah, I don't know the translation for English of the name of this one. So there's a fine for the simple fact of having it. That is about 3,700 euros.
wow,
Okay,
yeah.
so it's steep.
Yeah,
To me, it's I mean, making it illegal makes people want it more. I've looked at the statistics as well. For example, between the Netherlands and the United Kingdom. In the Netherlands, as you know, Martin said, it's decriminalized. So they won't arrest you if you have some on you, which makes it a lot less attractive, makes it a lot less dangerous to use, as it were. And you can see that by the usage statistics. I think about 10% of people here in the Netherlands use cannabis regularly, right? Whereas in the United Kingdom, it's like 30 or 40%.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So I think this is one of the things that society's always kind of combat with is how far do you go with the decriminalization? You don't want to make it attractive for people to use it, right? By making it dangerous and exciting to use it. But you also don't want to have substances which damage society, like heroin. You can't decriminalize that because the damage to society overall is just so much bigger,
I
right?
would say
So
that with heroin, I wouldn't decriminalize heroin. However,
exactly,
I wouldn't punish users. I would
yeah,
just send them to a mandatory, they should be on like methadone or
yeah,
other
yeah, exactly,
opioid replacement therapy. They are medical patients,
yeah,
not criminals.
yeah, yeah,
For people who are dealing it though, I of course have no mercy. I'm sorry. I have no
mm,
mercy who deal heroin. I mean, I might have some right now because of fentanyl, because I have
mm,
less mercy for people dealing fentanyl.
yeah,
But at the same time, I just think that illegal drug trade should be eliminated altogether. I think that if you really need your fix, the state
mhm,
should supply your fix.
mm. Yeah.
That's
I don't
like
know. I
the
mean,
better
they had
alternative, I think.
they had for heroin users, they had these methadone clinics in the Netherlands, and that really worked really well. There was this one place at Rotterdam station which was called I think it's Peron Zero, and that's basically where all the junkies could get their methadone, right? And that really kind of it kept them off the streets, right? But methadone in itself is also something that is, it's also an analogous drug to
Yeah,
heroin,
yeah, it's still an
right?
opioid,
So
but it
you,
works
yeah,
really, really long, and it doesn't really cause the same level of withdrawal. Like you
yeah,
will
yeah,
still go
exactly.
into withdrawal, but way slower. So that's also why I really see the danger of methadone. Like I really
Mm,
wouldn't think that giving the liquid itself, like to
mm,
addicts to take home, I think
yeah,
that would be dangerous.
hmm
Because like their kids could take it and overdose.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think
And
that way.
having it in a controlled environment where you can be safe about it, and you can get medical advice if you need it,
Yeah,
is so much better. And I think that also kind of goes for the less societally impactful drugs, like for example, cocaine and cannabis. I mean, everyone knows that all the stockbrokers take cocaine, right?
yeah.
But it's still an addictive substance.
There is
And
larger
to
market for cocaine in Europe right now than in the
yeah,
US. And by the way, I'm not seeing large scale devastation.
no, no,
Just
no,
saying.
exactly, yeah,
Only people who really can afford it take it. And I also
mm,
think that, at this point, I think you need to look at the reality
mm,
because essentially it's so easy to get, it could be as well legal.
yeah. One of the things that's stopping, countries doing their own thing on this, and experimenting on this is the UN. Um, that there's a
Yeah,
law
that
or
convention
a
or on
convention
narcotic drugs.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, that is something that is very hard to get around to, and this is also one of the reasons that Germany had such a hard time decriminalizing or legalizing cannabis. They can't just step out of this UN convention because by the European Union is bound by this convention as well.
Yeah,
So
that's also why we cannot really do like recreational weed sales over the
mm,
border.
yeah,
Like
yeah, exactly.
it's
Yeah,
just not possible under that convention because
mm,
it's just treated as a dangerous drug. And I really think that we should really change that convention because
yeah,
treating weed the same and LSD and lots of stuff the same way as we
mm.
treat heroin, even though we
Yeah,
don't treat
or alcohol in
fentanyl
this
as
case.
bad.
I mean, let's be honest. Alcohol is also a very damaging drug to society.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
especially in
yeah,
Poland.
yeah,
Man,
yeah,
like Poland has suffered so much from
yeah,
alcohol and the results of alcoholism, and
yeah,
yet you can buy it over the
mm,
counter everywhere.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. Same thing
it's
here. Yeah.
literally I have literally a store in a building like right over
Mm,
50
yeah.
meters. I can buy
Yeah,
alcohol.
exactly. I mean,
Guess
same
what's
thing
like
here.
in
Yeah.
next 15 meters? Another store where can I buy alcohol? Guess what's
Mm,
ahead 20 meters?
yeah.
Another store, this time specialized in alcohol.
Yeah. 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 I mean, we have that here as well. I mean, the
And
not
the next
the
one is
good thing I think.
pharmacy that
Yeah.
sells you weed.
I think a good parable as well to how you can kind of deal with that is how we're dealing with smoking right now, right? Smoking is very damaging to society, as in it costs a lot of money because lots of people get cancer and die from it, right? So the prices of tobacco have increased, and also they're using taxes as a way to stop people from starting to smoke in the first place.
By
Um,
the way, right now we have this category. It's called herbal cigarettes. And right now weed is under it, but just CBD weed. So you can literally buy weed cigarettes in Poland legally with the tax stamp on it and
yeah,
smoke
yeah,
it under the police station. And I
Oh
think
wow.
that's your God given right.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, I'm a father, right? For me, it's very important that my children aren't confronted with cannabis until they're old enough or wise enough
To handle it.
to handle it. Once you have the responsibility for that.
Yeah, it's
Um,
still, if you smoke before you're 25, it's still not a free ride for you. It can cause
yeah, yeah,
damage,
exactly,
especially
exactly.
if you smoke before 16.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
fortunately, I did avoid that. I did smoke before I was 18, but only a little.
Mm,
And then I started really smoking after I was 18. And even at that point, it wasn't that large. Then I
mm,
started smoking some more, but I think I avoided that really because still, if you're 18 when you start smoking, it's not as bad
mm.
as if you were like 15 and smoke till
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
25.
And I think that's very important. You want to protect society from the adverse effects while not infringing on people's individual rights to enjoy themselves, right? It's
Yeah,
like
and
you
I
you
think
you,
that
you don't want to.
that
Yeah,
if you basically bring on the medical system to provide you the fix that you
Mm,
want, so you can feel good and relax, or something. I don't really see how it's not a medical thing. It improves your quality of life.
mm,
So I really even see recreational weed in lots of
yeah.
cases as medical use.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we talked about in the earlier before the podcast is, you know, in Ukraine it's also being used medically now
For
for
veterans.
people that, yeah, for people that have PTSD, and that seems to be working very well. And of course, I mean, the country is at war at the moment, and you have lots of young people coming home with sleeping issues because of what they've seen, what they've experienced.
And if you don't sleep, you won't improve. That's the
Yeah,
issue with that illness. Like if you have PTSD and you're unable to sleep, it will only get worse.
exactly, exactly. And I mean, this is something, and we're seeing that development in real time, really, in Ukraine. I mean, I think the thing is, countries only really develop in a crisis, and you can see that in Ukraine very well. I mean, look at, for example, how they deal
Yeah,
with
yeah,
corruption,
that's
or
very
with
good that they finally
yeah,
get on medical weed. I think that's a little late,
mm,
but well, you can see the zeitgeist in it, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
think it
exactly.
will only get more accessible, more legal,
Mm,
and higher quality. Like
yeah.
seriously, when I compare it to the shit that I was smoking before illegally, man, I was
Mm.
smoking such a shitty weed.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, no, I've got a question for you, Anastheus, while we're at it, right? So
Yeah,
we got the leftist government in right now, right?
yeah.
What's the chances of them working on legislation to decriminalize or to allow medical cannabis? Because I mean, this is something that the left has often, been good at pushing, you know. Do you think that there might be a point at which the left will use that as a kind of like an election thing? We will decriminalize cannabis because, or is it still not really a
For the current government of the left, you have to keep in mind that there's going to be different opinions on that.
topic?
I can tell you that it is very split right now.
Okay.
Um, I don't really. Overall, the left is more favorable, unsurprisingly, to it than the
Yeah.
right. They're more in favor of legalizing it. For example, Mélenchon, you see the leader of the biggest party in the coalition, is
Yeah.
the one that is the most how to say perceived positively on this issue by
Mm,
the youth when it comes to the legalization of cannabis.
yeah.
So I don't think that a definitive ruling will be delivered anytime soon,
Mm,
although I'm not too knowledgeable on that subject.
yeah.
But I think that it is going to get more popular as time goes on. I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah. And
going to
definitely.
be,
Uh,
yeah,
Yeah, definitely during the upcoming presidential election. If the left wants to make a chance, that might be something that they can focus on. But it'll be interesting to watch anyway. This is one of the things. I mean, France has always traditionally been very very against the decriminalization of cannabis. I remember that the French lodged lots of protests against the Dutch method of doing things
oh,
under Hollande and under Jacques Chirac. Um, it was always like, oh, those damn Dutchies, right? They're selling cannabis to our youth. So yeah,
Very
but
good.
for me, it's
Very good
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
them, really. Very good for that youth. I think that youth has a good, bright future.
yeah,
that
yeah.
sounds
Not
like
only that,
northern
it's
France.
very good
Yeah,
for the Dutch economy. Having all the French people coming over the border and buying stuff. It's very good for our for our money. And the Dutch always love money, so
yeah.
yeah. But it's really it's an interesting time because I mean Canada has decriminalized it. The United States partially. There's states where they decriminalize it as well. But overall, in the United States, it's still federally it's still illegal, right? Um, so for me, it's kind of slowly changing the way that people kind of deal with cannabis and with drugs in general.
I think
But
that
like I said,
the way it's like more accessible, especially since in Poland now medical weed is legal. Like for
mm,
example, lots of my friends did try from one of their friends that has it prescribed, just to see how it's like, and lots of them did like it. And
Definitely.
that's how the perception does change, because now once they tried it, they understand what's about, and it's a dangerous drug.
Yeah, exactly. But it's always an interesting topic because I mean this is something that a lot of young people will try, and it is part of kind of the underside of society, and we can basically see it kind of it develop. A good parable to me would be and I don't mean to offend anyone, but it's the LGBTQ movement.
Yeah,
Um,
I would say
you
so.
know,
Yeah.
50 years ago, nobody in their right mind would come out as gay, right? Or nobody in their right mind would admit that they like the other gender.
Hell, I
Whereas
wouldn't even,
now,
like, 10 years ago, I wouldn't speak
yeah,
out
yeah, yeah,
publicly
yeah,
like that, hey, I'm smoking weed.
yeah, exactly. Whereas
Hmm.
now it's much more acceptable, and I mean, this is especially on the young people, of course. We'll try anything. So,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
once they try the legal CBD weed, now they know what
yeah,
it tastes like, and it does relax people still.
mm,
Like, you still
yeah,
gain some benefits from that. So now they're curious, like, okay, so what does the normal feel like? And then you
yeah,
see,
exactly.
oh, like that. Oh,
Yeah. Oh,
quite
like that.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So thank you for tuning in to this episode, and that's goodbye from me, Anastheus and Snor.
Yeah,
Goodbye,
thank you very
guys.
much. Yeah, it was wonderful talking to you guys again, and let's do this. Let's do this again next week.
Yep. And by the way,
Yeah.
guys, the new publishing schedule is Tuesdays. We will try to stick to it. So bear with us. We are actually recording this on a Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
See ya.
See
All
ya.
right, bye.